Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me, Grand Cruise Astrology. My name is Clayton Cruz, and today I'm going to talk to you about the first of three eclipses we have within a 4-week span. And the first eclipse is Friday, different times depending on where you are in the world, but it is coming on Friday, and we're already starting to feel the effects of this eclipse that we have coming on Friday. So, what do we have with this eclipse? Well, just on the face of it, this eclipse is partial. So what that means is that if you look at this, and by the way, it's a lunar eclipse. So it's a lunar partial eclipse in the sign of Sagittarius. So just on the face of it, looking at that eclipse on Friday evening, you probably won't even see it. There may be a little darkening of the moon, but it's not. It's partial. It's not going to create uh, much of a much of an eclipse-like feel. At least just looking at it, you may not even notice. So, but astrologically, it does have significance. I mean, even if this were just a full moon that we were having, it would have significance because it's involved in a T-square. So, but it's an eclipse. So, what is an eclipse astrologically? The meaning of an eclipse astrologically is it gives special charge and it gives more staying power to the effects of uh, the either the sun moon conjunction or in this case the sun moon opposition. When you're dealing with a lunar eclipse, you're dealing with a full moon, and that is a sun moon opposition. So I'll get to it. So this eclipse, we have the sun conjunct Venus, which is retrograde. It's going to be across from the moon, which is in Sagittarius. So I'll get to the T square with Mars in Pisces in just a second, but I'll start with just the eclipse. So we have Venus conjunct the sun in the sign of Gemini. So again, I did a video about Venus going retrograde and how we are all reflecting on our connections on a social level to one another, to other human beings, to how do we connect? Venus is all about interrelationships and how Gemini is a very social sign. So when these two energies when Venus is expressed through Gemini, we are seeking out different people, different opportunities, different clubs, different situations, different social circles, trying to explore all sides of everything because that's what Gemini likes to do. It likes to explore everything. It loves duality. It loves to explore the extremes of both sides. That's what it does. So Venus and Gemini there, we're doing that in an interpersonal kind of way, or at least trying to. And if we're not doing it in person, we're doing it, over the wires, over the internet, over Zoom, or through associations, things like that. So that's with Venus going retrograde. There's some reflection period about that. Some discovery of how can we best do that? How can we how can we move our lives forward in this new environment that we are all living within, right? So that's the journey of Venus going retrograde with the sun now. The sun is illuminating that. That's what the sun does. It brings life, it brings vitality, it shines a light on it. So that's what with the sun and Venus together, we are all very much looking around and saying, how do we relate to one another? I mean, how do we get along as a collective in relation to each other? And we are looking at, well, there's this side, and there's this side, and there's that, and there's this, and we are, with the sun on Venus in Gemini, we are looking at all things, all sides of any issue very dispassionately and accounting for everything. Now, that's just for this part of the sky. In the opposite part of the sky, we have the moon, which is the opposite of the sun in a lot of ways. So the moon, unlike the sun, which is very objective, the moon is very subjective, whereas the sun is very mental. The moon is very emotional. It's instinctual. So whereas the sun is over here, looking at all sides of everything, saying, oh, that's interesting. Well, this is interesting too, and that's interesting. And, I can kind of see this and I can kind of see that. And the moon is over here saying, yeah, but where is the thread of truth? Where is what has meaning? Like, that's all very interesting to see all sides of the equation here, but what is useful, and where's the truth? Where's the kernel of truth in all of this, and how can we use that truth to, move forward as a collective, right? So there is this divide here between the sun and the moon, and it's power charged because we have an eclipse, right? So it's a full moon, power charged by the eclipse. So again, I did a video about the nodes, just kind of highlighting the nodal influence. When you have the north node, which is in Gemini, and the energy is going into Gemini. There's a lot of, it's the dragon's head. There's for the next 18 months, year and a half, we're going to have a lot more energy going into the sign of Gemini, which has to do with being considerate of the duality and less considerate of absolute truth in any situation, and more considerate of, yeah, but there's all kinds of ways to look at it. It's more nuanced. It's not so clean and clear cut. Because when you have the south node in Sagittarius, so the south node can be about what we are expelling, all right? What we are, it's dragon's head, dragon's tail. The south node is like the back end, right? It's the expulsion, the excretion. It's what we're crapping out, right? So with the moon there, and it being a lunar eclipse, a south node lunar eclipse, which is partial. It's partial astrologically speaking. I'll just as an aside, it's a partial eclipse astrologically speaking, when the planet in question, in this case the moon, is not the sun and the moon. The moon is not conjunct the south node. It's still in the sign of Sagittarius, but it's not directly conjunct. So that's just astrological calculation there for you. But the moon, south node, lunar eclipse with the moon in Sagittarius, the dragon's tail, it is creating an opportunity for us to release any kinds of emotional attachment or connection to any belief systems that we've had in the past that are no longer relevant. And this goes for every single individual in the collective, and it's going to be affecting every single individual in the collective in different places in their astrological chart, because we are all different. However, this affects everyone. So the south node with the moon, again, we're letting go of those ideas or ideals that are no longer relevant. It's removing them, and we can try and hang on to those ideals if we want to. We can try to hang on, but the thing with the south node, especially with eclipses, if you don't let it go, you're going to be putting in a hell of a lot more energy trying to hang on to them than you would be with any loss you feel just releasing it. Okay, so that's sort of the trick with the south node, is to just to let it go. And when we're talking about a lunar eclipse, this is usually very personal. It's usually on an inner level. All right, it usually has to do with things like emotion. We're talking about the south node. We're talking about emotional attachments, and we're talking about Sagittarius. We're talking about ideas, ideals, anything dogmatic or anything that is haughty. And yes, this is what I know to be the truth, and this is the truth, right? With the north node in Gemini, it's saying, look, the truth is very nuanced, and there's more to it. There's a lot of relativity there, okay? And we need to explore the relativity. The sky is asking us to take to put more emphasis on everything is relative, and we need to explore all sides. That's astrologically in the sky what's happening right now. So just in terms of the eclipse and the planets involved with the opposition, I would just say think twice about getting up on a soapbox with any opinions that that you're holding on to, and yes, I'm right. This is a time to be considerate It's not a time to be necessarily passive, and I'll tell you why. Because we have Mars in Pisces, creating a T-square to both the Sun and the Moon. With Mars in Pisces, um, this can be about, and we're seeing that, standing up for injustice. Mars in Pisces is very much a manifestation of that energy. It's about taking on carrying the cross for people that are, um, um, underserved or just um, the downtrodden or the sick, or people that it's about fighting for those that need to be represented, that may not have the wherewithal or whatever to represent themselves, right? So with Mars in Pisces there, we're seeing that. Okay. The only thing with Mars in Pisces to be aware of uh, is that Mars in Pisces doesn't always um, it does this for its own sake. It doesn't necessarily have perspective. Mars doesn't really have perspective. Mars is just an action energy, and when it's called, it just goes and it does it, and it does it with passion and ferocity. Now, being in the sign of Pisces, it's a little more subdued than it would be otherwise, but it's still there. And being at the in the middle of this eclipse, um, it is in focus. And so the suggestion here, but first off, anytime you have a T square, right? Whether it be an eclipse T square like we have here, or just a T square in general, the planet at the apex of the T square, the planet that is squaring both planets in the opposition, is the planet of focus. It's where you look to find balance. So the astrological advice for this is to use this energy to be of help and be of service to other people, um, in a way that is very selfless, in a way that is um, considerate of all. Because Pisces is not about one group or another. Pisces is about, Mars is about crusading, in this case for the downtrodden in Pisces, yes, but Pisces as an expression of energy is all for the greater good and all to be collectively connected to the whole and to leave no one out, right? So this energy is about, being active and being of service in whatever way possible. So, I mean, we've seen some of that, but we can also see what happens when it gets out of balance, right? When it gets out of balance, it can be a little too much on either side of the eclipse, right? It can be either too much just, um, you know, taking account of things and being all up here about it, or it can be the other side of up on the soapbox and uh, being downright destructive in whatever way, because you know we're just so sure of all sides and the truth, and we're going to express that, right? So it's important to find balance with this. It's important to be considerate of everything involved, right? Not just uh, the limited opinions of the past, whoever we are, right? To be more open to all sides, and to be more to be of service to that sort of greater consideration, right? But Mars is an active energy, so if we are compelled to take action, then we take action. That's how this is going to manifest. However, it's important to be considerate, because again, if we get too far to either extreme, um, we're going to be putting in far more energy than we're getting back, and it's going to exhaust us, and ultimately, it's going to be um, it's not going to work out in our favor, right? We're going to be pushing uphill. So that's the eclipse on a collective, big picture sense. It's the first of three, and there's some tension here. There's some tension to be resolved, and we're seeing that play out. This eclipse that we have coming up is a what we're seeing in the world and the collective is a manifestation of these energies that we're talking about here. And so this is coming up to be looked at, to be uh, integrated and resolved through Mars, through action, yes, but with any T square balanced action, okay? Action that is considerate, action that gets the most bang for the buck as far as the energy that we put in, has the most, just has consideration and thought put into it, and is not just because Mars, it needs perspective. Okay, Mars always needs perspective anytime it is that energy is being used. So that's what I got. Bring as much perspective and consideration and release of any old dogmatic beliefs of the past into any action that you take at this time. And you can do well. But this isn't designed to be an easy aspect, an easy eclipse. So just understand that going in. It's designed to challenge us on an internal level. It's designed to challenge all of us at some place in our life. So that's what I got. Be considerate and take action, but be considerate with this energy. And I'll leave it at that. I'll do another video here soon on the next eclipse. And if I see anything else that pops out at me astrologically, I'll do another video about that too. All right. Take care. See you soon. Bye.